Hey everybody! Welcome to Prop Live, our weekly prop and costume question and answer show. It's Thursday at 5 p.m. We always do it then for people who ask. And we have fun in-studio guests this week. We have squatters that have showed up at our house and refused to leave.
We're homeless.
Yeah. This is my friend Cassie, who was an assistant here in my shop for a little while, and then her boyfriend Chris, another amazing maker. And they have been squatting mostly at our house for the last couple of days while they're vagabonding around the Seattle area before you make a big trip to
Dragon Con.
Dragon Con first.
Dragon Con first.
But ultimately the goal is to go down to New Zealand. Because you guys work at Weta Workshop.
We do.
I know the chat is going crazy. We got people here. Hi, Cassie. Hi, Chris. Chat. For those of you watching live, if you are not aware, we have a chat room over at punishprops.com/live where we have an IRC chat going. And let's see, developing cosplay.
I like Chris's
New Zealand,
shirt.
yes.
I want one. Too bad. You can only get it in New Zealand at the Weta Cave. So come down to New Zealand.
I'm wearing my colors.
Legit.
Oh man,
legit.
So cool. So anyway, we've been working in the shop the last couple of days, casting a bunch of stuff, getting ready for PAX out here in Seattle, and Dragon Con the week after that, which is going to be bonkers. Quick question: Mike wants to know, where can I get Chris's shirt?
What a workshop! It's an exclusive. You have to go to New Zealand.
You have to go to New Zealand to get that shirt.
You do.
All right, cool. I thought it would be cool because you guys are both live in the Seattle area. That's how I met them, going to conventions out here. But you worked really hard and were able to start working with the people at Weta. And I think for the folks watching at home, that would be kind of a cool opportunity to put together that path that you guys took. Because I know when I first started my job hunt fresh out of college, I was like, I'll just apply for a job and then I'll get my job and I'll have a career. And it never works out that way. And your guys' path towards eventually moving to New Zealand to work there is I think, a really interesting one. So how did you initially approach Weta about working with them?
So my initial approach at Weta was going to Calgary Expo.
Just as an attendee?
Just as an attendee. I had a friend who lived there, so I could have a place to stay when I got into workshop, or when I got up to the convention, I mean. And so that was really the tipping point was, well, Weta's going to be there, and it's a lot closer than going to New Zealand to kind of show off my stuff. And this was literally 2 weeks beforehand, and I was going, I don't really have anything to show. And but when I went up there, I also volunteered to help them take the booth apart, which was very helpful, learning how to.
How did you approach them to do this? Just walk up to the booth,
So I waited in line to have Richard look at my stuff on an iPad. I didn't have it very well organized, but Richard Taylor's the founder of Weta Workshop, or the co-founder thereof, and I had him look at some of my stuff. And two of the people running the booth, I had met through another friend prior and said, hey, I'm bashful and shy, all this fun stuff. But so I showed him some of my stuff, but it was really the fact that I had helped with the teardown of the booth that helped them remember who I was instead of just somebody else. Right. Yeah. Show them that I know how to tie a knot and can load a pallet and not break stuff.
So the really great thing about doing those sorts of things is there are many benefits to it. What I would say is, for people looking to get into like the effects industry or get in with a studio, is to offer help and be aware that they may totally not be interested in it. And if they say no, it's not because they hate you. They just
sometimes there's just too many hands on deck. Yeah. And Calgary, we had less than enough hands on deck. Right. So that was helpful.
But when you do are helpful for people, expect nothing in return.
Yes.
If you expect or demand anything, that's a one-way ticket to never getting asked to help out again.
That's absolutely true. I mean, you run into that a lot. It's like, well, I did this. It's like, okay, well, that job is done.
Well, and that led into Chris being asked the next year. So this is when things actually really started going. So we were still just doing.
So it was a whole year.
It was a whole year. Yeah,
a whole year before. I mean, they sent me a free T-shirt for helping out, which was nice. It wasn't this T-shirt.
But we didn't hear anything up until a couple weeks prior to Calgary, and they're like, "Hey."
They were probably strapped for people.
Exactly.
Like, hey, you remember that Chris guy?
So they invited him, and then he was like, well, can I bring my girlfriend too? And for the past 10 years, I've been a retail worker. So it wasn't I've been kind of having on and off, minimum wage jobs and everything. But I was like, oh, maybe I can offer help at the booth because that's my specialty is being in front of a cashier. So what happened was we went there and actually they were very short on cashier people because turns out that is a very useful skill because not a lot of people like handling money and actually talking to people and doing all that stuff. So you
found a way to
make yourself helpful. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I can't be trusted with money.
Right. And then I was also able to show my stuff on the side because I also was a costumer. So I brought some of my costumes. So I kind of just went, I'm really good at cashiering, but also look at my costumes.
Yeah.
So
and when you're helping out at a booth, so long as you choose the appropriate time for it when you're helping out anyone for any reason.
Yeah.
If you have you're there because you want to be a part of what they're doing.
Right.
And especially if you're volunteering your time, the least anyone could do is at least look at your portfolio.
Well, and the thing was it for me, I didn't really have a portfolio built at the time. So I had my costumes and I had photos and everything. But we had free time. So I had dressed up in my costume and they were able to just see me walking around with them. So it wasn't like I was presenting myself and walking over and being like, look at my costume. Instead, I was just going over and talking. And then they're like, oh, what other stuff do you have? And that's when I would present, all of my stuff on my phone and everything and be like, oh, I've done this and I've done some prosthetics and stuff like that. So it wasn't shoving in their face, which is also quite important because most people don't like that being shoved in their face.
Right. Here's a really good example. I was just down at San Diego Comic-Con where Chris was. Here is the booth, part of it at least. This is the team of people who worked at the booth at San Diego. You can see Chris hiding in the background over there, underneath the Krampus sign. Those are all the people that they do panels and stuff on Weta's things at San Diego.
Yep.
And at Comic-Cons. But everyone there too helps out with the booth, which I thought was really cool. I got a chance at Salt Lake Comic-Con to help you because you asked me too.
Yeah, I was like, hey,
you want to come help out at the Weta booth?
You want some fiberglass splinters? There's a reason I have tweezers that live with my Leatherman.
There's so yeah, when someone says, hey, you want to come help out at the Weta booth, the answer is always yes. And also it's like, I'll come help out and you don't ask for anything in return. You just say, hey, it'd be really cool to help out. Everyone at the Weta booth, the artists, everyone helped put the booth away.
Yeah.
No one gets to not.
That's the Kiwi way is, okay, the job needs done. Let's go do it. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. And that's the kind of environment that I enjoy down at Workshop is the fact that everyone's working towards a common goal. It's not like, well, I'm too good for that, or this isn't my specialty, or whatever. It's okay, how are we going to get this done? And then when it's done, it's not like, look what I did. It's, we finally accomplished something. Yeah. Cool, what's next?
I forgot where it went, but Developing Cosplay in the chat room says that he likes, or she likes, Cassie's hair.
Thanks! I just did it.
I just realized I don't have the chat showing up there. I usually do. Oh, by the way, everyone watching live, we have the Q&A app in the event page, and you can ask questions there. There aren't many there right now, but if you have any questions about making literally anything, because between the three of us, we can probably make anything.
We can probably make up an answer.
Costume or prop related. But if you also have any questions about the sort of work that these guys have been able to do in the last couple of years at Weta, throw those in the Q&A thing, and we'll answer those. I'm going to delete that, and I'm also going to open up the chat. Let me see. Add this thing, and we have our awesome chat at punishprops.com/live, and I'm going to add it right there, and it's really tiny. But
That's fancy. Oh, yep, I can totally not read that.
There we go. There's our cool chat. All right, let's see what else we got here. We got the Weta booth, and then there was the smog one. This was the one I got to help with, which is really cool. And there's me in front of it. Yep. Yeah.
All the splinters.
So that's a giant fiberglass dragon head. How many pieces was that?
So he breaks down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces,
5
and then
main
there's
pieces.
20 something horns that go on.
There's 2 horns that are about 6 feet tall, six and a half feet tall. Yeah, they're huge.
But what's going on with his eye there? That's a projector playing a movie of Smog's eye, and it actually blinks open and closed as well. The foam latex eye.
That's pretty awesome. Whoops. And there's a steampunk thing that I...
Amazing.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
What else? We have couple other things. Oh, and then so a couple other things we have here. This was something that you guys got to work on that was really cool. Tell me if this is the right thing. Is this the
Yep,
one?
that's the one. So
yeah. Tell me a little about this thing, and I'll try and find... I'll just let that go. It's got some cool pictures.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So Gallipoli, the scale of our war, I built that gun,
Yeah.
is a World War I exhibit that is the chronological set of events that happened during the Battle of Gallipoli, which was an Anzac battle, which Anzac is Australia and New Zealand Armed Forces. The Battle of Gallipoli itself was a terrible trench warfare battle that took place, and this is the chronological series of events when you go through, and the scale of our war refers to how physically large we made these sculptures. They're 2.4 scale in size. So each one of the sculptures is basically 2.5 times larger than life. And these are all silicon hand sculpted faces of historical figures throughout that battle. And it goes through different characters doing different historical people who actually have relatives who still live in New Zealand through their events and what took place during this fight. And so all the costumes, all the props are made 2.5 times larger. Click on this one here.
Which one? This
That
one
one
here?
there.
That one, yeah.
There you go.
So that is a Maxim machine gun, which is basically the world's first fully automatic machine gun. It's got a water-cooled barrel. So technically that large barrel would be full of water. This particular version doesn't have the water thing next to it. Anyway, but that gun right there is actually made out of metal.
That's cool.
Aluminum and steel, and all the shells on the ground are all hand-lathed brass that I made. There's 150 lying on the ground there, so I had to figure out how to spin and shrink brass. Yeah,
you always know exactly how many of a certain thing you made.
There's so many.
Like the District 9 gun has 24 of those barrels on the side of it. Yeah.
You always remember.
But the costuming people had gone as far as to make the stitch length larger on the hats and things like that. That's all wool, and the sculptors all have added like calluses to the hands, wounds,
like that. I guess
tears.
that one's a good example.
Yeah, so there's a real hand versus the size of how large this woman's hand is.
They're incredibly lifelike. They're beyond beautiful.
The fingernails are cast acrylic as well, so they're actually a little bit see-through. So they were really creepy before they put their fingernails on. But like even the woman's hand here has hand-punched hair into it, in really, really fine hair. To make it look right. If you click on the woman crying there, one past.
So for me, this was an incredibly cool thing to work on because my background is in archaeology. That's what I got my degree in college. So for this to be the first major piece for me to work on professionally was just stunning because I've gone all around the world and I've never seen something as in-depth and personal feeling. I wept at the end of it and I don't cry easily. So it was a really good, stunning way to look at war in just a different light than you're usually used to. And Weta helped to definitely make it just beyond amazing looking.
That's cool.
It was really nice to be a very small little cog in this project when we first came in too.
That's cool. We'll definitely put a link to this in the show notes so that you folks can go check that out later on. Pay attention to those brass casings.
Those are not the important thing. Go look at the thing. They help tell the story that's being told in this exhibit.
What other stuff have you worked on that you can talk about?
We did another museum also on Anzac that was also in Wellington, opened on the same day. So the reason that the Battle of Gallipoli was a big thing was because this was the 100-year anniversary of it here in 2015.
That's right. World War I was 100 years ago.
Yep.
Yep.
Crazy.
I guess we can say we worked on Krampus, the movie. We can't say much more about that. It comes out in December.
Watch it.
Yeah.
There you go. One more shot from this.
That
Crazy.
There's
Crazy
one
man.
where there's an open wound on it, and it almost makes you gag because of how realistic
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the other. So the other museum that we did, I actually got to help quite a bit on too, because I had to do a process called flocking, which is how you get props to make have that lifelike fur on it, and most of it is either synthetic or yak hair. And these were full, giant, life-size horses that were almost the size of Clydesdales, I want to say. Like they were quite big.
They're just tiny.
He's shaking it at
right
me.
there?
Yeah, that's just latex. I was painting my mask.
Let's put it further away.
It smells delicious.
I love the smell of it.
Oh,
So I guess probably a background of the departments that Cassie and I work in at Weta are I'm in engineering or welding and fabricating. I went to school for that for a long time. I went through college and high school. But I've also done costumes and props for ages since then. But so I've been a little tiny bit in the costuming department, but largely I'm in engineering. So a lot of those sculptures that you see have what are called armatures inside of them. And that is like the guy holding out a gun one-handed. There needs to be a steel structure here so this piece of fiberglass and silicone doesn't just fall on somebody. So there's a lot of work that goes into this
or the giant dwarf.
Or the
holding out
dwarfs.
a hammer over the crowd in San Diego.
Exactly. All of those sculptures have to be strong enough for the public.
Yeah.
So I build a lot of the strong stuff out of steel and other types of metals. And Cassie is in the casting department.
Not actually casting the actors, but
No.
I actually do this cool stuff.
Yeah. Which is what I had her doing when she was working in my shop.
Yes.
Pouring lots of resin into silicone molds.
Yep.
And this is one that we just did yesterday of the District 9 rifle that I made. So, yep. And then here's a good example of something else. Then this is like a nice simple one-part mold of bullets. And it's much easier than making them out of actual brass.
Not cheaper though.
No.
Well, if you're making them.
But yeah, so that's mostly what I did, but I also
swords,
jumped
yeah.
over to paint and clean up, where you fill in all the holes that you missed and all the bubbles and everything. So
Bullets.
yeah, that's kind of what I did. I jumped around.
321.
Yeah, it's 321. That
Yeah.
actually had less bubbles than the last one I did.
Cool. Oh yeah. So what I see here too, like from you guys, is just stockpiling skills.
Who's
like over the last.
Lady Longshanks?
That's Brittany.
Oh, hi, Brittany. Hi. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
So stockpiling skills, yeah.
Before you were probably confident enough to approach a company to even just lend a helping hand, you had welding experience, armor making, like metal armor making experience. Experience.
Yeah, and I also worked at a plastic store too for 3 years prior to going to Weta. So that also helped out a lot, because you don't just jump into casting and start doing chemistry right away. You actually do have to have a little bit of knowledge about that.
But being able to jump into a place and say, "Oh, I can do that," and actually be able to do it. Right. Saying you can do it is one thing, but actually being able to do it can be really valuable.
I've always had an interest in how things are made, and that interest has brought me to the forefront of trying to figure it out for myself. Like what is an opportunity I have to be able to do this? One of my early costumes, the very first suit of armor that I made, was a Prince of Persia Warrior Within costume.
Oh, I have a picture of that.
And within that costume, I tried my best to try to figure some stuff out, as well as to figure out how to cast aluminum or aluminum. Aluminum. Yeah. So that was okay. Well, I don't have a facility to do this. I was still in college at the time, so I built a crucible out of steel and just heated it up with an oxyacetylene torch in the crucible. And by it, I mean just a bunch of scrap pieces of alley until it was molten. And I used some moon sand I bought at Walmart because I didn't have any silica sand. So it's called sand casting. So basically, you make a sculpt, and I made mine out of Sculpey. Super Sculpey, and you bake that so it's a hard thing. So you push that into the sand, and then pull it out very carefully, and then pour your molten metal into that, and it creates the void. This kind of casting has been around since the Bronze Age. It's how they used to make swords. They would literally carve out a sword in the sand and pour bronze into it or brass into it, and from there they could refine it down to a blade at the time. And so I was looking around, seeing what I had available to see if I could get away with trying to do something like that. And some trial and error later, I figured it out. Not that I could just pick it up and do it again. I'd obviously do it better. Yeah. But just jumping in head first at random projects like that is one of the ways I've been able to learn how to do things better. Is, oh well, I've screwed this up, but the process of the way I screwed that up is going to make this thing look really cool or whatever. And the same thing with paint. I used to teach a custom airbrushing class for the local skills center, which is the high school, which was nice.
You guys ready to start taking some questions?
Yeah.
All right.
We can make up some answers.
Yeah.
Let's make up some.
This one's from Lee, and Lee wants to know about doing EVA foam, cutting bevels on. Let's see. I've seen a lot of EVA foam tutorials on cutting a bevel on the outer edge of something. Do you have any tips on beveling the inner edge, specifically inside corners? It's hard to get those clean. It is. That's why I have it. I have every size and shape X-Acto blade over there, just lined up. Especially, Cassie, can you grab that thin one? Left one more. That guy. Nope. Right. Left one more. There you go. Something like this. This is a flat extendo blade. It's got a really long blade on it. And because the foam is so flexible, I will bend it and then use that to carve into the nooks and crannies. I've actually done that with my old bandsaw too, because the choke on it's only 9 inches, and if the foam is too long, I'll just fold it over and just
roll it up like fabric through a sewing machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
I totally do that with the foam.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just getting good at using different sized and different shaped.
Making sure it's sharp, because a dull blade doesn't go through anything.
Yeah, and more than anything, make sure that it is really, really, really sharp. Because if it's not sharp, then it will tear, and those inner corner edges will always look raggedy. Yeah, that one was from Lee. Practice. The other thing is lots of practice.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, here you go. This one's from Don't Try This at Home. Wants to know, what kind of binder did you use for the sand when you're making your casting? I'm trying to find a cheap substitute for silica solutions to use in a pinch.
So what I ended up finding, because I went to the beach and couldn't get sand to stick together to save my life, I ended up finding what's called moon sand, and it is a child's plaything. It worked for 1 or 2 castings, and then I started burning it together.
Is it this stuff here?
Shape it? Go back one. I think I saw it on the, it's literally that.
Yeah. It's stuff that
it sort of worked. Water. I mean, it worked enough for what I needed.
Moon sand.
It's literally just something you buy in the kids section.
You can mold.
And it stayed together long enough. Now the molten metal did burn the sand, and it crisped it up really nice. So I kept substituting new stuff in with the old stuff, and yeah, do it in a well ventilated area or outside.
Outside probably best.
It definitely outside. But it stuck together long enough for me to actually push my mold into, lift it out, and then pour stuff into. Now there was refining after that, but there's going to be that with any kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That is not the professional way to do it. You need some kind of proper silica sand, but honestly, I couldn't find it either. So yeah, that was my workaround. I just bought it at the store. Have
you ever seen what people are doing where they will make a prop out of styrofoam?
Yeah.
Put it in sand and then just pour molten metal on the styrofoam.
That's a pretty common way to do it, and that works. I don't know. I haven't tried that one with trying to use a binder or anything like that, but that might work with some really fine sand if you pack it nice and tight. Mm-hmm. Because basically, sand casting, you're going to get the texture of the sand in your model. So that's the way like sand cast automobile parts are made too. They look a little textury because they're done properly with that sand. Hey
Patch in the chat is saying that he's glued sand together with PVA glue. that's like Mod Podge or Elmer's or something like that. So maybe you could mix it in.
It would probably burn. That's really hot.
Yeah, it gets really hot. I remember when I was growing up, my dad built model boats, radio-controlled sailboats, and they have a huge lead bulb on the bottom of the keel to keep it upright. And he did sand casting for that. And I don't know if he used a binder or what he used. Again, I was like 12 years old. But the sand itself was this black sand that was ridiculously fine. And the mold was really simple. It was a bulb shape, and he did half and half. So he would just press it into the sand, pull it out, pour in the lead. And again, it's lead, so it melts at a really low temperature. And he just did that twice and then melted them 2 halves together to get his lead bulb.
Okay, so it was just the same piece twice, and then
it was just mirrored.
Nice. Yeah, because I've seen what they like. There's a lot of videos on YouTube of guys doing this in a professional shop, and they basically have a nice wooden box, and they press their mold into it, clean off the top, lift it out, and then they have the exact opposite, like the rest of the mold as a press to the other side, and they literally take the box and set it on top of it, and that one has sprues in the top where they cast it, so there's literally a void, and there's even a roof of sand over their piece, and then they fill that up. That's essentially what the styrofoam does. It just evaporates instantly. So that being said, if you spend a whole bunch of time sculpting something out of styrofoam, if it fails, it's gone. Yeah. Whereas if you have the press thing, you can remelt your molten and try again and try again. That's what I did. I mean, first couple of tries, the sidewall broke, so it was just a bunch of molten stuff everywhere. And what I did was I took an old toolbox, just one of those metal toolboxes about this big, and I put the sand in there. That way I didn't have molten metal running around on the ground where I was going if I failed. Which is super failed a bunch of times. Like,
all right, thank you for the question. Don't try this at home. This one is from Iris Liberty. I'm a college student, art major in sculpture and I'm not sure. Illustration, yeah. I'm constantly broke and afraid of wasting materials on large-scale builds, armor, props, etc. What's some good small-scale projects to build? Confidence to get me ready for a large-scale build. That's actually, it's a really good idea to start with things that are small. What I get all the time is asking about making silicone molds, because I make lots of them. When I started making silicone molds, I had a job at Microsoft, and I could afford to just buy silicone and waste it, because I did that a lot. So I started right away by making 2-part gun molds that were pretty big, and I learned a lot by failing a lot. What I would recommend other people do is start with a 1-part mold of something like a pendant. Or jewelry, or any of those little guys there.
Jewelry is a fantastic, like, just do something that's already created, or sculpt something yourself.
Or like this was a little piece I ripped off of my old air compressor, and there's a 1-part mold I made of it. In this case, I had extra silicone left when I made another mold, so I just glued this down and made a mold of it just for fun. And then when I have extra resin, I throw it into this, and I get little goofy pieces. Small thing. And 1-part thing. So this is a 1-part mold. The back of it is where we poured it. So this was the master of this was glued down when I made the mold. So that makes it a 1-part mold. You don't have to have a seam line or anything.
Small projects, depending on what materials you're looking at, trying to make things like jewelry it gets you into those fine details, but it doesn't waste a lot of materials.
That way, if you
even if you're just trying to make a foam bracelet, like, how much detail can you throw in there and still convince somebody that it's something worth looking at? And it helps because then you don't need a lot of elbow space when you're working on stuff. If you're working small, and same thing with leather, like, just try the little stuff before you go to a full breastplate, so you understand what it's going to do when you do X, Y, or Z to it.
The other thing is what you have in spades is time. Lots of time. I don't have lots of time, so I throw money at materials or outsourcing. Since you have that time, spend it refining your craft on smaller projects for sure. Thank you. That was Irish Liberty. All right. The next one is Flaming Cabbage Prod.
That's a lot of things.
It's a good name. I'm making foam armor. Hey, so am I. Look, it's back here.
Yay!
This is my Shaq's torso for my Shaq's costume. Yay! It's all made out of foam. And what's the rest of the question? Like cabbage. Considering hardening them with plastic resin, any tips to get me started? Oh yeah, I got lots of opinions about that. So I did that with my last Destiny costume. I use Epsilon. It's an epoxy resin from Smooth On. And it works. It does make it really hard and rigid. I would say put at least 4 layers of the stuff on, and then do not expect it to flex at all. It'll become rigid. And if you have any pieces that need to flex when you're wearing them, they will crack. So just design your armor in a way that you don't have flex points in the middle of a piece of foam that's been hardened with epoxy, or else it will, in fact, crack. And nobody wants that. Yeah, so that's what Epsilon is used for. You can coat it in nearly anything. We've been using urethane resin back here. You could coat your armor in that if you want to. But again, many layers to make it nice and durable. You could fiberglass it too.
Yeah, I've seen some people do
you
that.
can fiberglass it. I've seen a couple of people do that.
We did that with our Draugr helmets. That was all foam fabricated and then fiberglass.
I guess you've just got to be careful which resins, or have you found any that eat away at the EVA?
EVA doesn't really get eaten away. Like insulation foam, if you put polyester resin on there, it's gone.
Dissolves.
Yeah. But EVA is super resilient to that. Gibbs Mail in the chat says, any news about Weta coming to an event in Vancouver?
Not that I know of,
Right.
unfortunately.
That's above my thinking.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see here. Valor Props says, hey guys, I'm working on my Destiny Hunter helmet. All right. This is the 3D render of the Celestial. Oh, there's a picture. There's an associated picture. Let's see if I can bring that up. All right, we can swap over that. This is the 3D render of the Celestial Nighthawk. I'm ready to print it now, but I'm always thinking ahead. I want to rotocast it for obvious reasons. How would you suggest handling the face opening? Oh, so I imagine he wants to cast it in more than one piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For this guy, that face opening in the model, you could even just close it. Just close that opening, and then every casting you pull out of it, you would have to cut that out. But that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Or you could go over to Stephen K. Smith's page on Etsy and just buy one of his, because they're really great.
And probably cheaper than having to remake the whole
than
thing.
printing it. Probably unless you have your own printer. This model looks really great, though.
That looks really good.
I really like how it's been split apart. This whole front face part comes off. The rebreather parts seem to come off as well. It's cool. I think it's a really good 3D model design. But yeah, actually a good example. My shopmate Will did the Tally helmet from Mass Effect.
Oh yeah.
So the helmet part is all solid, and then there's a purple visor that goes over it. The visor area on the solid helmet part gets cast over, and then he trims that out and then adds a vacuum form visor on top of that. And you can do the same thing with your guy there. You waste some resin material with every kit, but that's kind of how it's done.
It's kind of the easiest way to work around that, though.
Yep. Chris and I were just talking about this earlier, how a lot of times, especially in a professional shop, what was it? The most valuable resource is manpower.
Yep. Material is cheap.
Yeah. People
are expensive.
Yeah. Right. And which is funny because like a gallon kit of Mold Star silicone is $200, and the person running the shop, the person paying for it, would rather spend an extra few $100s on silicone if it saves you a day of work.
Yep.
Right. Because that's
yeah, especially if you have a team.
Especially if you have more than one person working on it, it's like $200 goes away like that.
Right.
Yep. Let's see here. The next one comes from my buddy Eric over at Core Geek Props. He says, were you able to get the weight down on the District 9 rifle like you hoped? You want to go grab that?
Yes.
And hey, Chris and Cassie, hope to see you guys at PAX.
We'll be there Friday, and probably being hobos and just standing outside the rest of the time.
So when Brittany and I originally did the first run on this kit, it was almost entirely solid just because we were in a hurry. We put some foam on the inside to take up some space, but it was ridiculously heavy, like at least 10 to 15 pounds just for that main part. This is maybe 1 or 2 pounds.
Yep.
And the way we did it was, it's a 2-part mold. So we had the molds open, and these guys, I supervised. They brushed in a layer of resin on either side, and then did a couple layers like that. And some of them, we added some Urafil 9, I think.
So.
Right there, Urafil 9,
Urafil
which is
9.
Silica powder. So don't breathe it in. It's literally shards of glass.
We'll cut you.
Yep. But that thickens the resin so you can brush it around a bit. So we're able to brush the resin up to the edges of the seam.
Seemed like it just made the pot life last a little bit longer in the gel state.
Yeah.
And that let us brush it up on these spits.
Yeah.
Which helped.
So then the mold got clamped together, and we rotocast the seam by spinning the entire mold
And
like
it was
that.
bolted to the wall.
We did-
well, after.
We did it once.
We did it once by holding it with the whole mold jacket on there, and it was ridiculously heavy. So we suspended it from the ceiling using straps, and then we did 3 good layers that way, and it looks like it worked out really well.
Worked really
We
well.
got one thin spot that's super easy to fix. Otherwise, it's
really, really light.
and this is going to be the heart. Yeah.
Yay, turned out.
Yay! Got a thing.
Well, I hope we see Eric and Pack as well.
Yes, Eric and your family.
Cool. Oh, Valor Props responded in the chat. Says, I like the idea of having a full helmet. The mask will be magnetized and removable. Oh, right. So Steve's mask only goes over like the front, and then you wear a hood over it for the hunter.
Oh, so then the way that we
Yeah.
were talking about would work really well.
Cool. Oh, and his ventilation pieces are to hide small fans. That's a good,
That's
smart.
idea. Cole B422 in the chat wants to know anything about events near Maryland.
Same answer.
Same
Yeah, I
answer.
have no idea. No idea.
Look on Weta's website. That's honestly, or their
Yeah.
Facebook page. That's the best way to figure out what conventions they're going to.
Eric wants us to show off your Winter Soldier arm.
Woo.
Actually, I think I have a photo of that. I can find that really
Ooh.
quickly.
We're timing you.
And there it is. This is the fancy pants picture I took.
Woo! Hobo Winter Soldier.
Oh, is that Hobo Soldier?
Let's do
Yeah.
this.
I haven't cut my hair, so that's hobo.
Hobo Soldier.
There it is. Boop. Ta-da! It's just gonna go over our faces right now. So that's a steel arm thing.
Yeah, so it's all made out of stainless steel. There's 39 separate plates that fully articulate.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird angle. But you can actually see I sculpted in
There.
the weenus of my
Tell us
elbow.
about it. You're just right. Your face is right next to it.
I sculpted in the weenus part of the elbow. There, you can kind of sort of see it, but yeah. So that whole arm articulates directly off of one arming point up here tied to my jacket, and an arming point is literally just 2 ties that come out of normally a gambeson, but I just reinforced the leather coat that I had been working on to take the weight of the arm. But originally, what I did was I laid my arm on a piece of 6-inch thick styrofoam, traced it out, and then beefed it up so I could, look more like, well, my arm had to fit in there. So obviously I had to look more muscly. But so I sculpted out a version of my arm using just styrofoam, and then I covered that in a layer of masking tape, like down to the veins and things like this, and the tendons to make sort of look anatomically something. And then from there, I covered it in trash bags to make my pattern, and covered that in masking tape, and literally drew on where I wanted all of my pieces to go. I actually have that sitting over here in this stupid box I made you take.
Right.
Little do you know what's in your shop.
I'm gonna grab a question real quick. Oh wait, you got it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's your template.
So here is my template that has not been well taken care of. This is my round 1 of template. So you can see all the different numbers and lines that it takes. This is the vambrace, which is going to be the forearm bit of the armor here. And you can kind of see, I'm missing a bit there, but this part goes all the way around, and then this part would hinge closed. Should have brought my arm.
Should have.
Yeah, left over in my mom's house. But
Your mom's probably walking around wearing it,
probably
feeling like a boss.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so it articulates with what's called plate to plate as well as floating articulation. And plate to plate for steel armor is a rivet directly between both pieces. And floating articulation is if you rivet it to a piece of leather or some kind of strapping, where each piece hangs off of that piece of leather. So the articulation here is all plate to plate, but the articulation here down to that point is floating. That way the bicep actually collapses in on itself, and the shoulder or the pauldron piece I can rotate like this, and it stays put like my hand is because it's got one strap that runs to the bottom here, whereas this one has 3 straps down to here. And then the inner elbow lames here are all riveted together, and the outer elbow lames are all riveted together, including the elbow cop or poly piece here. The vambrace, as you saw in the template there, is actually every piece is cut out separately and then hammered to fit right and then welded together. And I have a hinge running on the outside here that I've welded directly to it, and then a pin on this side. And I actually spring the stainless steel close a little bit, and then that pin catches on a hole that is smooth on this side. And then I rolled the edge of the vambrace so that I wouldn't cut my hand when I was moving around. Normally a vambrace ends about here on proper armor. That way when you're fully stretched or bending, it doesn't run into your hand. But this one I brought all the way up here, so it was touching. A little more uncomfortable, but made the costume right.
Yeah, it's cool. I've got to wear it before. It makes me feel awesome. This next one comes from Dan. This is one I know I can handle. Dan wants to know, I got some contact cement to try out for the first time. I got mine right back there. Tons of Barge. And he wants to know, should brushes be replaced after every use or can they be reused? You should also get yourself some thinner. So Barge makes their own thinner specifically for their contact cement, which is called Barge Thinner. And I keep a jar, a small jar of the thinner in a glass jar. It's around somewhere, yeah. Yep, there it is. So with just a little bit of Barge Thinner in it, I keep it capped off because it's poisonous, I guess. Oh, it looks like it's expanding a little bit too. Maybe.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a
Release
little
some of that
caustic.
pressure.
It's fine.
And then when I'm working, if I have a brush I'm working with all day, it just goes in here. And then I can use that brush all day long, and I can dunk it in the thinner to revitalize it. But I'm not using a really nice brush. I'm still using an acid brush or something. And then at the end of the day, I usually just throw it out. But yeah, you can totally reuse a brush a whole bunch.
Yay.
All right. Nick wants to know, is the hollow District 9 gun fairly rigid? Do you feel good about the strength of the piece? I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I would stand on it, but not like on my tiptoes.
Yeah.
I guess.
If you're worried about the rigidity too, for a hollow piece like that, you could backfill it while it's still in the mold. Backfill it with an expanding foam, and that would help out a lot.
If it's not in the mold, then it'll get a little poofy.
Yeah, it'll poof out for sure. But while it's still clamped in the mold, you could mix up some expanding urethane foam, some rigid foam, and fill that cavity up for sure. Here we go. Another one from Irish Liberty. Let's see here. I'm interested in making a Mad Max or Book of Eli scrapper type armor. Any tips for getting road signs and other bits of metal like that cheap or free legally? I think this is right in your wheelhouse.
Go, Chris.
Oh, you added the clause, cheap or legally.
Have both sometimes.
Depends on where you live. I grew up in the country, so things like that were easy to find because people just throw them away. You really gotta open a dialogue with somebody who is in charge of a scrap metal place, for example, or a junkyard. When I was working on my Prince of Persia armor the first time, I was like, well, where am I going to get armor or steel? I can't afford to go buy it new. And the new stuff's always kind of boring because it's covered in mill scale and grease. And when you pound on it, it just, it looks new if you clean it up. Whereas old stuff has some character, kind of like old leather. What I found was old shelving. old steel shelving. Has lots of character depending on what it's covered in. And I actually made my Dr. Doom costume completely out of old shelving, but that's a totally different thing.
But you could get that sort of stuff like if a store is going out of business.
Stores going out of business,
shelves.
people getting rid of stuff at garage sales. This is the kind of thing that they just throw away.
What's the other? Habitat for Humanity is also an amazing place to go if you have one in your area because they have all kinds of random stuff there.
People donate stuff that they can't throw away.
Like a trebuchet, apparently.
Apparently
over in
there's a
Oregon, we
trebuchet.
found one.
Come pick it up. Someone donated that to Habitat for Humanity.
Awesome. Cool. Basically turning one man's trash into another man's treasure.
Upcycling cosplay. That's how I started.
This next one comes from Fernie B. Let's see here. When slush casting with Smoothcast 300, is it possible to add regular food coloring to change the pigment between layers? I wouldn't use food coloring.
No, I wouldn't either.
I would use So Strong Tint from Smooth On.
And they last forever.
Yeah.
One drop of that will do more than.
So I have a brown here. I have a black. There's a yellow. They sell a trial kit with all the colors. We have one of those, and they're tiny little like half-ounce cups, but they last a long time.
Yeah,
They
you
use
just
them
take a
very
little
bit.
string on a toothpick or whatever.
Look for any pigments. This is specific liquid urethane colorant is what this is.
But if you're looking to just experiment for science reasons, try it.
Yeah, see
if
what
it
happens.
works.
See what happens.
If it works, I mean, go
Turns
for
out
it.
this is really just food coloring.
Most expensive.
Just
I'm
really
sure that's
caustic
safety.
food coloring.
has to be
Yeah, but
Bye.
specifically for Smoothcast 300, So Strong.
But if
Tint stuff.
if it were to affect the cure of the actual casting material, then
it's bad.
you're not going to get it out of your mold very easily
Yeah.
or ever.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try it in just a tiny mixing cup and see if it cures all the way, add a
Yep.
color, or if it just separates or does science.
Yeah, one of those bottles is like $12 though. Yay, thank you. We got a delivery.
Mail's here.
Real time.
Another one from Flaming Cabbage. I'm working on a low to no budget. So working with EVA, what's better, Barge Cement or hot glue? I would say
depending
both.
on the application,
Yeah.
depending
You're
on
not
what
gonna-
you're wanting to do.
But I would not get by without the contact cement.
Yeah,
Like if you
Contact
absolutely have
cement,
to pick one or the other.
it's going to be a
Contact cement.
stronger bond.
Yeah.
it's also going to be a permanent bond once you stick them together, which was fun learning from Bill, and I wasted a few pieces. But Barge Cement, go and look on his website for his cool stuff.
And a little bit goes a very long way too. The can here.
Lasts forever.
This by the way, this is the thinner, Barge Thinner right here. And then this is the can. This is like $30 or $40, but it goes a really long way. There you go. Like one of those cans is more than enough to make a whole set of foam armor. Easy.
Yeah, that's like a regular person's 2 years supply.
Yeah.
Yours maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah,
A week.
less.
What are you at?
Next one here, another one about foam armor. Cole wants to know what paint gives the most realistic metallic finish. On foam, it's tricky. We actually just got, and it's hiding down there by your crotch. I just got a bunch of Angelus paints. These are leatherworking paints. So here's a bronze. That's really, I like that a lot. There's a pewter.
Oh, that's what you just painted on your Destiny.
And a silver. Yeah, so these are leather paints. They're great. They're very flexible, which makes them great for foam. You can paint them straight on the foam, and they do have a lot of different metallic colors. So Angelus is the brand. We'll put a link to them in the show notes. So that's there you go. Just get those. And here's my thinned down orange that I spilled all over the floor yesterday.
Now the floor is orange.
It looks like someone murdered an Oompa Loompa in there.
How dare you?
I'm going to put this back.
I'm not entirely convinced that's not.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but we'll just let it slide.
All right, this one comes from Tristan. I want to embed something in clear resin, which is something that you guys just played with today.
Good luck.
I'm really good at answering that question.
It has to be in the middle. So would I be better off filling the mold partially, putting in the object, then filling it the rest of the way? Or should I shove the thing in there when the resin starts to jelly?
Because then you'll get a whole, if you try to shove it in while it's gelling, it will bubble and it'll turn out awful. So the site that he's actually going to link to, Tap Plastics, is the company that I worked for. And I got this question all the time. So it might take a couple of tries before you can actually get down the exact amount of clear resin you need to pour every time. But once you get it down, you should be able to lay a layer, put the piece in, lay another layer, and there will be no seam lines on there, but it'll take a bit. So cast things that you don't love first.
Yeah,
like
don't
pennies.
don't embed the thing you want to get perfect first, second, or third try.
Yeah.
Like get your process down.
We'll put this video in the notes here. I'm going to copy and
It's
paste it for the chat.
fantastic and old.
This is Tap
Plastics, the fantastic plastic place.
Tap Plastics has this great video on casting embedments, like you're talking about here. That goes through the entire process. We'll link it in the show notes. I linked it in the chat. Go check that out. Then you wait, and then you put pennies in.
Also, patience is the key.
Yeah.
Don't
try to
hurry.
bubbles caught into it.
Bubbles are the worst.
Yeah.
Because this stuff gets hot when it expands any air, making bubbles that didn't matter microscopic into suddenly bubbles you can see.
Yep.
Yeah. Good question, though. That one came from Tristan. Let's see. We've got just a little more time left here. We'll grab some more. This one. Okay. This one has a visual element. Let me see if I can copy it there and paste it there. We're going to Photo Bucket, everyone. Ryan wants to know. I've done a lot of parts out of foam, and I want to try something bigger. I want your opinion on one piece of it. The Juggernaut helmet. So here we go. Here's our picture. There's the Juggernaut. Ta-da!
You actually did a really good tutorial of taking like a giant,
I would buy a wok.
bowl.
I would buy a
Or a
wok
wok.
and heat it up and dry.
Yeah.
And heat form the foam.
Yeah.
Heat up the foam. Yeah.
Yeah.
And use a wok as your form.
It's a form.
If you find one that size, wok is a big smooth bowl for
And it's not flat on the bottom. It's round on the bottom.
That's the
makes
important part.
And you can probably find one of those used somewhere. Basically, Will did a video where he explained making boob armor, basically, by taking a bowl, heating up a piece of foam, and then punching it into that bowl, and that gave it a nice round shape.
Yeah,
you could do something similar with a big form like a wok.
And you might be able to get away with that as one piece. If not, then you're going to have a seam that you're going to have to hide. But Will's video pretty much that, but on a larger scale. If you find a form that is the right shape you're looking for. If not, then it's going to be a lot of gussets and trying to hide that.
Yeah, because if you do have to cut seams in there, let's see here. Yeah,
it's not as
the WM Armory foam fabrication video.
Oh, yeah,
the whole crap ton of views too. I'm going to paste that link in the chat, and we will share that one in the show notes later. But he discusses that there. It's also in my book. I believe I put it in my book.
I'm pretty sure you did. I've looked through all of them.
All right, cool. Another one here from Iris Liberty. Let's see here. What's better, using a heat gun to close foam pores or sanding, working from coarse to fine? I see people arguing about this on forums. Is there a favorite method for you? The only time I worry about like the texture on the foam is on the edges. And what I usually do is I use a grinding bit. This one right here, in fact. See, actually, side note, I am casting this from, or this live thing is from my workspace is right there. Notice how everything I need is in arm's reach, every tool I use. So this is a grinding bit for a Dremel, and it's an old grinding bit too. It's pretty smooth, which is perfect for smoothing off the rounding up edges on cut foam. And it gets rid of the fuzzy bits that you're talking about getting rid of. My buddy Evil Ted Smith has a video on how he does it. He does it with progressively sanding with different grit sanding sticks, and then he hits it with a blowtorch. So it's basically the same thing, using heat and sanding.
Yep.
Neat.
A combination of the two. And then, like with this last set of armor, it all got coated in latex, which got rid of any texture, which is pretty fantastic. So if you look at like
So smooth.
Like the edges on this here are just really nice and smooth. I rounded them over. I did heat seal everything with a heat gun, and then I coated it in latex, and it's all nice and smooth. So there you go. There's some more foam know-how for you. Close that and get rid of the juggernaut. All right.
No one ever gets rid of the juggernaut.
Let's see. Smidge McDuff, my brother, says, I recently used a set of mixing bowls to make similar shapes.
That thing still here? No,
I took it home. So, Rob made something really cool. Doran Clan Creations on Facebook. Go check it out. It's awesome. It's going to be at PAX. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. This one's from Cole. How does Cassie get her hair color blended like that with the silver and the cute light blue?
That's professionally done. I could never do that.
Where did you go for that?
I went to Scream, which is on Capitol Hill in Seattle, and it's actually quite cheap for how much work she had to do.
Scream Salon. It's
amazing.
Let's see here. Scream Salon. Capitol Hill's original alternative salon.
I gave the lady an idea.
Go, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I clearly need a haircut.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Also, I have party on this side, business on this side where it's more blonde, which is like the best thing ever. And of course, my hair is
But
being awful.
I will take credit for shaving her head.
That's true.
That's all me. Sometimes I shave lines into her head. Like
yeah, he likes.
I want to do flames, not tell her. It's like I'll do swirls and I'll just put flames in it. Like, why? You're a biker now.
Awesome.
You do need to go there, Cole B422.
Let's see here. Questions coming from Patrick. What have I clicked on? I clicked on everything. All right. Hey, Bill, any tips on shipping gun-shaped props? I'm worried it could cause a panic or be destroyed. And besides writing, not a real gun on the outside of the box, I'm not sure what to do, and it might not go down well. If you're shipping domestically, not a problem. No one cares. If you're shipping internationally and it has to go through customs, you do have to write on the customs form what it is, but you don't have to say it's a gun prop.
No, it's just a
prop replica
or a model kit.
Yes.
Something like
never
that.
say it's a sword, it's a bow, it's a prop.
Yeah,
you're making a prop. It's not a weapon.
I have shipped dozens and dozens of props internationally, and as far as I know, I haven't had a problem with that. Except one time, one of the things I was sending to Russia, it was a little space gun kit, and I gave it to the guy at the UPS, and he checked it out. I paid for it. He's like, cool. They're probably not going to get that, but Godspeed, little package, little space gun. Just apparently the postal service in Russia is a little bit corrupt.
Woo.
Hey, that's it. That's 6 p.m. and we are all done. Thank you, everybody who watched along live, everyone in the chat who's going bonkers right now. You guys are awesome. Thank you, everyone, for bringing your questions. Thank you guys for being on the show.
Yay, thanks for having us. Yay.
We will all be at PAX, and we will all be at Dragon Con.
Party!
So,
first time at Dragon Con.
Yeah, we're going to show these guys.
Say hi to us if so. I promise we don't bite.
Wow.
What should people be looking for as far as costumes?
I'm gonna be in this.
Really
guy.
decided yet? Maybe my Doctor Doom. I
This
want to
is
bring
my
a suit of armor.
baby. This is a Doctor Who mask. So I'll be running around in this. It's gonna be painted soon.
Looks just like the Doctor, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that and what else do I? Oh, I have a Katniss costume. So look for Hunger Games.
Yep, and I will have this guy, my Lord Shaxx costume. That's why I will have on both costumes.
Or my hair.
Both places. Yes.
For that.
So if you see us, yeah, Cole says I will say hi and pet your hair.
All right.
Maybe not pet a stranger's hair. Maybe say hi first, and then ask.
Introduce and then ask.
All right, that's it. We will be back next week for sure, right before PAX, and it'll be a good time. But until then, you guys get out there and make some stuff. Bye.
Adios.
Adios.